Great.
For those of you I haven't met yet, I'm Caitlin. I'll be helping host moderate this session. You have hopefully seen me in the chat throughout the summit. I am so excited to give Tatango the stage for this fun bingo themed presentation where they'll share unique examples of nonprofit text messages aimed at acquiring and retaining monthly donors. This I just think is such an important topic, and I know we're all going to learn so much today together. Just a reminder to turn on the closed captioning if you need it. Additionally, you can scroll down and find info to connect with our speakers, discover monthly resources, apply for the Monthly Giving Mastermind Scholarship, and take advantage of all of our special offers. If you have questions or comments, feel free to pop those in the chat. Mike, we can, have plenty of time for Q&A. And we'd love this to be as interactive as possible. So, Mike, I'll go ahead and kick it over to you to please introduce yourself and Trish.
Yeah, this is going to be really interactive. So we are going to make this bingo interactive themed, a little bit of a different flavor of bingo. So we will definitely be looking at the chat and look for your participation here so we can all learn from each other. But we are super excited to be with you. My name is Mike Snooze. I'm on the customer success team at Tatango. So I work with all of our nonprofit customers, including Holt International. Have worked with Trish and Holt going back probably 7-8 years to my Blackbaud days when we worked together. So I've known them for a long time. They have a fantastic monthly giving program, sponsor program that I know you're going to learn a ton from her today. And I've always been so impressed with how they dig into the data, how they run fantastic campaigns, some really, really great examples and a great organization to hear from. So Trish, thank you so much. I know you're very busy. Thank you so much for taking time out to be with the folks today and to share what you've learned over the years about monthly giving.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to being a participant with everyone.
Nice. Oh my gosh. And somebody just said my husband was adopted through Holt. That is so cool, Emily. Thank you for sharing that. So let's get started then. Let's dig in and we will go to real quick about Tatango. So Tatango is a text messaging platform really built for nonprofits. So we've been around a long time, but we focus primarily on working with nonprofits. And so our platform is made for donor segmentation, automation, personalization, all of those things that help acquire monthly donors and retain them, upgrade them. We have a lot of integrations with nonprofit CRMs, donation platforms, event platforms, so you're not exporting and importing every time that you want to send a text message. So a little bit about us. We're also a broadcast text messaging company. So we send one to many where you click a button and it goes out to many people, thousands, tens of thousands or more. All right. And with that, real quick. So before we get into how to play bingo, one of the reasons we're talking about text messaging and why it is such an important topic is we've seen over the past few years, the Digital Outlook report has told us that 4 to 5 nonprofits either have a texting program or plan to start one. And really the immediacy of the channel is unrivaled and unmatched, especially for important moments. Not only do 99% of texts get opened, but 90% of them get opened within 3 minutes of being received. So for your critical fundraising moments, when there's an emergency that happens or a big campaign or close to a deadline, and those are excellent times to try to acquire new monthly donors and other types of donors. Texting is really unrivaled in terms of getting in front of your donors quickly and getting the message out to them at that important moment. All right, so here's how we're going to play bingo. This is a little bit of a different flavor. I am going to show you 24 squares in the bingo board of nonprofit text messaging use cases. What I'd like to ask you to do is for every use case that you use text messaging for, you're going to get a point. So every square that I show, if you're texting for that use case or that type of text, you're going to get a point. We're going to go through and Trish is going to share her experience and how they've used texting for these different monthly giving and related monthly giving use cases. I'm going to discuss some of the other ones with our nonprofit customers. And at the end, we're going to ask for the highest point totals. So the top 3 point totals are going to win this Tatango Yeti, which I am using here today. I don't know if you can see it with the background, but it is fantastic. I use it all the time. We will send it out to you. This is going to be on the honor system. So keep track of your points. We're going to have plenty of chances to look at the board here. And at the end, I'm going to ask you how many points you have or how many use cases you have. In case of a tie, we will randomly select a few people. And so what I want you to do at the end is, for those who have the highest point totals, you can email me at the email address there. I will put it on the screen at the end. And you can email me to claim the prize. We'll get your contact information and send you out the Yeti that you see here. So without further ado, here is our bingo board. And how this is going to work is I'm going to ask Trish to pick one of the squares to talk about how Holt International uses text messaging for this use case. And those are going to be indicated on gray squares. And then the white squares, I'm going to ask the audience to pick those for any text messaging use cases that you use that for. And then I'm going to share some examples or information about that as we go through. And we will total at the end what the points are and find out who are the Yeti winners. All right, so if you want to also keep track at home, or if you want to keep track on your mobile device, here is a QR code where you can scan the bingo board that will pull up a page that will have the board there at all times. I'll be kind of flipping back and forth to show you the board here during the webinar. But if you want to have it in front of you at all times, you can scan that QR code, and that's going to also be on the slides as we go through here today. So here is the bingo board. I'm going to ask Trish to pick, and I'm going to, for the sake of being able to get to these pretty quickly, I'm going to take this out of presentation mode and just kind of go into the Google Slide mode, the edit mode here, so we can bop around pretty quickly. But Trish, can you pick our first bingo square that we'll head to? And we'll talk a little bit about how Holt is using text messaging for that use case. And then we can move on from there and take some audience participation as well.
Yeah, why don't we start with new monthly donor welcome text, Mike?
Okay, so new monthly donor welcome text.
Yeah, and so for this use case, because we are talking about monthly giving programs here, the way that Holt acquires the majority of our monthly donors is through sponsorship acquisition. We go to a concert series, we ask people to sign up to become a sponsor, and once we have them in our system at Holt, we send them out this thank you for sponsoring message. We have an email that goes out as well. As we follow up, there's more pieces that come, but we try and get this out as quickly as possible just to thank people for signing up and becoming a new monthly donor at Holt, and just let them know how they can reach out to us if they have any questions about their sponsorship or about Holt.
Great. And I love this. I love that you're using some other channels here. You're giving them an email address. You're giving them a phone number. A great image that you're using here. It's really feel good of, texting is a small device. So the image is going to be small, and having a close up of a child here with some big wording on top of it. This is really, really well done. Trish, so nice job being able to, let's see here. Are we all able to see the screen, the board? I think we can see that. We can't see the board. Okay, we're going to go back to the board here. So Trish, thanks for that example. I'm going to make sure, can everybody here see the board? Okay, we can see it now. So we're going to be kind of going back and forth from the board to the example. So I'll come back to the board here, but just know that the board is not going to stay up on the screen the whole time. We're going to be going back and forth to different examples and then coming back to the board. So we've gone through our first example. Trish, great example of new monthly donor welcome text and being able to reach people on their mobile device where they're spending so much time. So next up, I'm going to ask our audience to let us know one of the use cases on the board here, one of the white squares, where you might be using text messaging currently. Okay, Leslie, you have the free square. That's great. Anybody else using text messaging? Event invites. So Jill, thanks so much. So the board is going, I'm going to take this off the bingo board. We're going to go down to event invites here, and I'm going to talk a little bit about using text for event invites, and then we're going to go back into the bingo board. So text messaging is a great channel for reaching out to folks for different events. This is an example of National Kidney Foundation being able to use text messaging to reach out to folks 37 days ahead of the event. And what we find, because text is so immediate, is the closer that you get to an event, the more the conversions, the registrations increase for that particular event. And this is just another way in thinking of it of the bigger context of monthly giving, of how we can get more people further engaged with the organization, how we can get them closer to the mission. If somebody comes to a walk or they come to another event, then that's another chance that we have to engage them in person, for them to learn about perhaps stories of those who've been affected by your organization, those who've been helped. It's a way to bring them in and draw them closer to the mission, where if they're not a monthly donor, then maybe at some point they will become a monthly donor. If they are a monthly donor already, it hopefully strengthens their relationship with the organization and helps them to become even more emotionally connected to your organization. Perfect. All right, so we've gone through 2 use cases. Back to the board here, and I'm going to kind of be going back and forth here throughout this. Trish, you are up next. We've talked so far about monthly donor welcome text. Where would you like to go on the board next?
Well, since we just talked about events, how about we go to volunteer recruitment?
Volunteer recruitment, that is a great one. Okay, so here is an example of a volunteer recruitment text that Holt International just sent out in the past couple of weeks. Trish, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about how this is, why this is used and how this is connected to monthly giving?
Yeah, so for us, most of our events that we do are actually in partnership with artist programs. And the way we acquire sponsors is by going into venues, having artists perform. People are attending their concerts, and what they're going to do is they're going to give a sponsorship pitch from stage, and we're going to have tables on the floor in the venue, and then we're also going to have people standing in the aisles. And for us, that means we need to be able to get those people in the aisles and to man the tables. So we will send out this volunteer recruitment text asking for people within our database that live within that area to come and be a volunteer for us. And when the artist is presenting from stage, they're going to say, go talk to our friends down at the table at Holt, or see the people holding the picture folders in the aisles. So this is really critical. Without volunteers, we aren't going to be able to actually gather our new monthly donors, our sponsors.
Yeah, it's a great use case for driving monthly giving acquisition with Holt International. If your organization doesn't use events to acquire monthly donors, if it's more traditional volunteering, it's also a great way that you can get people further connected to the organization and perhaps have them, if they have not donated before, perhaps have them become a donor and then move them to a monthly donor, or acquire them directly as a monthly donor. So even if you're not going out and acquiring monthly donors at events, certainly I think volunteering is another great way that you can get people connected closer to the organization and get them emotionally connected, so you can at some point hopefully move them to become a monthly donor. All right, thanks, Trish. So we're going to go back to the bingo board. I saw a chat here from Courtney. Courtney wanted to go to lapsed donor renewal. So I'm going to go to that one. Sounds like Courtney has used texting for that use case specifically. And this may be more in terms of monthly giving, trying to get somebody to continue to be a one-time donor and eventually moving them into a monthly donor. So we find with text messaging that when you're able to reach people, and I hear a little bit of clicking. I don't know if the moderator can help to mute that if we do hear a little bit of clicking from somebody. But the lapsed donor renewal, if you can reach people close to these key moments, especially at the end of the year, where they have not yet renewed their gift, they have not made a gift to become a second or third consecutive year donor. Here's a great example of a Giving Tuesday text, and that is a key moment. we see other nonprofits using text messaging to try to renew their lapsed donors, especially in December. You do this with other channels. You do it with email, you do it with direct mail, to let people know they have not given this year, but there's still time, their gift may be matched. And so this is another way, if you can get somebody to continue giving multiple years in a row, that really sets them up well to become a monthly donor at some point. That continued giving, the retention year after year, and then giving them a chance to either give monthly or to give maybe annually, and asking them to give each year at a certain point. I know there's more recurring gifts that are becoming annual gifts. So this is another way that texting can be used to combine with your other channels, and especially making sure that, again, with the 99% open rate, and because texts get open so quickly, you know that people you're going to send this to are actually going to see it and open it. All right, so back to our board here. We have been through several so far. I'm just going to put in here the ones that we have. I'm going to bold so we can kind of keep track of these, so it's easier for you all to keep track, and it's easier for me to keep track of these. So Trish, we are back to you. Where would you like to go on the board next to talk a little bit about how Holt is using texting related to monthly giving?
Well, I see right there one of the people have asked for emergency and crisis response. So that might be a good one to head to.
Great. Let's head down there. Here's an example. I'll kick us off here because this is a different organization. And then Trish, I'll let you talk a little bit about how Holt is using texting for emergency giving. So this is another organization, International Medical Corps, that sent out a text. And we were just with Jess Smith from there yesterday at another conference, and she was talking about how within a couple hours of hearing the news of the earthquake in Turkey a couple of years ago, they got the information together. They sent out a text within a couple hours. It's part of their emergency response to first focus on notification channels like text messaging to get the word out there as quickly as possible. And then they move on to other activities in response to an emergency. This was a fantastic text for them. It was one of our highest performing text back in 2023. It had a 28 times ROI for this particular text. And Trish, I'll let you talk a little bit about when Holt has used texting to respond to emergencies and crises.
Yeah, so for us, we work in lots of different countries around the world. And our most recent use case was when there was flooding in the Philippines in a program where we have partners, we have orphanages, we have families that we're providing for. So what we'll do is put a campaign together, but text messages are so quick. We can get a message pulled together really, really quickly and get that sent out. And then it gives us a little bit of time to build on the other parts of our campaign, potentially email and social media outreach. And what we saw right away when we did our Philippines earthquake is people just respond so quickly. And we'll send this to single gift donors and also our monthly donors, because we find that our monthly donors really actually respond at a very high rate to our more emergency crisis type campaigns.
Yeah, and I remember when you all mentioned that, Trish, several years ago. That was one of the more interesting stats that I remember you all talking about is when you can get your monthly donors to make a one-off gift, how that helps the retention when you sort of get that monthly donor to their 13th gift, how that helps the retention rate of your overall sponsors or monthly donors to keep them longer. So I know one of the questions we often get is, well, how often should we ask our monthly donors for a one-off gift? And certainly when you have an emergency or there's a crisis response, and especially using text messaging, because with emergency giving, often the organizations that get in front of their donors the fastest are the ones who raise the most money. And then after that, it sort of starts to decrease steadily. So if you can get in front of your donors quickly and use this opportunity to give them a chance to help those who've been affected, it not only gives them a way to contribute and help those in need, but it also helps to retain those monthly donors longer by getting them to make their 13th gift.
Yeah, especially, Mike, when it's in the news cycle. If there's a lot of news about that crisis, It just makes it more legitimate even for our donors that we're reaching out to, and they certainly respond. The quicker we are able to respond, the better our results are for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Thanks, Trish. It's super, super interesting, and I hope helpful for the audience. Would love to hear in the chat too if you prioritize getting to a 13th gift with your monthly donors, and how you find if you studied retention there, and if you found that does help your retention, or what you found with your monthly donors. All right, next up, I saw Alex had asked for, or I'm sorry, Heather, giving days. So we'll go there next. So giving days, similar in a way to some of the other use cases here. I'll pull up this example of giving days here. So certainly a lot of organizations use text messaging for Giving Tuesday, but also if you have a giving day, it is probably one of the best times of the year to send text messages, because what we find is when you do have a fundraising moment or a deadline, closer to that deadline that you send the text message, we typically see the highest ROI, the highest conversion rate for your text messages. And so back to Trisha's point, on a giving day, this could be where you ask some people to give directly as a monthly donor, recurring donor, and become a recurring donor for the first time. It could be an opportunity where you reach out and segment your existing monthly donors and ask them to make a one-off gift. But giving days certainly are one of the top use cases that we see organizations driving revenue, driving hopefully their monthly donors in terms of acquiring them and getting one-off gifts. And we also find what's really interesting is it's not only the giving day, but it's also if you text the day after a giving day, that tends to have a very high conversion rate and ROI as well. Because texting is such an immediate channel, if you reach out too far in advance, we find that there's not as much success with text messaging. If you say our giving day is a week away or our giving day is 4 days away, there usually isn't as high of a conversion rate and of revenue as if you wait for the giving day and maybe send multiple texts on that giving day, or you send a text in addition to that after Giving Tuesday. The closer you get to a deadline, or if you tell people they missed the deadline, then they're more likely to give via text messaging. So we see a lot of organizations having success taking that approach with giving days and other important moments. All right, so we are moving along here. Trish, we are going to go back to you on the board. Where would you like to go next?
I think to piggyback on giving days, we could probably tackle Giving Tuesday and year-end appeals.
Yeah, great idea.
So as you were saying, Mike, one of the things we learned through testing over the years is, initially we would try to set up Giving Tuesday well in advance, start prepping people, and we discovered that the closer you are to Giving Tuesday and the less you communicate up front, the better results we have. So for our Giving Tuesday campaign, what we'll do is we will tell people, usually on Sunday, that Giving Tuesday is coming, be prepared, and we'll send a text message to alert them to that. And then on Giving Tuesday, we will send multiple texts that day, and each is kind of a countdown, and we may upload, we're halfway there, we're halfway to our goal, help us reach our goal. And similarly for year-end appeals, we found that texting on the last 3 days of the year, one on the 29th, one on the 30th, and then a couple on the 31st. Again, kind of just that time sensitive. We're counting down. We'll put a countdown clock for the end of the day in there. And we see really great results on those really important days that have a time sensitive, offer for the donor.
Yeah, and Holt has such great content, if you've ever received their emails, that it's just naturally transitioned over to text, and they've used the similar imagery, and they have fantastic engaging content that they're able to just easily plug over into text. And this one that you see here on the right here, this was their first year-end campaign that they did. And so they used an MMS for this. They used a great image of a child that matched other channels. What they also found is when they looked at texting and how much revenue it drove directly, so there was good direct revenue, the ROI that they had there. But then when they took a step back, and I mentioned they're really really good with their data and digging in, and we did this for a previous presentation, looking at when they started asking for money via text, that it not only led to the direct conversions, but for that Giving Tuesday and year end where revenue was slightly down year over year that year, when they started asking for donations via text, not only did they get direct conversions, but they started to see online giving overall start to spike those last 3 days of the year when they started asking for donations via text. So it started to sort of lift all boats, and maybe folks didn't always respond to text, but they responded to email or to a social post or digital ad or search ad or something else. So I would love to see more organizations dig into not only the direct influence of text, but also the indirect and how it impacts engagement. I know their open rates for email went up that year, and as we saw, the revenue went up as well. So really interesting. We'd love to hopefully dig into the data more. We did a text messaging insights report last summer, and we're planning on doing that again this year. And hopefully we'll start to continue to dig into this data a little bit more.
Well, and I think, Mike, too, just some people still respond better to emails. Some people still respond better to text messages, and being able to send both to donors and allow them to kind of choose which is the method that works best for them is just serving our donors better.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have folks, that they'll tell you they want to receive a text message, or others that want to receive email, and they will certainly let you know, but giving them the choice of different channels and being able to let them pick what is best for them certainly gives them more ways to interact with your organization in the ways that they like to connect with you. All right, so we are back to the board here. I'm going to take, I didn't see any more suggestions. Anybody
Mike,
have
could I play?
Yes, go. Yes, Kate.
Hey,
Yes.
I have seen a few questions on SMS versus MMS. So would love to dive into sending MMS texts. And if you could give us a little info on the difference between the two and when you recommend one versus the other.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate you calling that out. So there is a difference between SMS and MMS. SMS on the left here has 150 characters. On the right, MMS has 5,000 characters, and you can use an image, you can use an animation within the image, you can use a video, and if you're using a short code, which is a 5 or 6 digit number, which Holt International and most of our nonprofits use, then you can have a video that's up to 30 seconds directly within the text message. I have an example here that I'll show you in a little bit, but you notice that MMS looks a lot like email nowadays, where you can have several sentences, you can have bolding, you can have emojis, you can have subject lines. And so we see organizations really use these hand in hand together. According to our text messaging insight report last summer, about half of the text that nonprofits sent, when we looked at 200 million texts sent by nonprofits in 2023, about half of those texts were MMS and about half were SMS. We find nonprofits use SMS a little bit more for fundraising and MMS a little bit more for stewardship and engagement of your donors or your monthly donors. And a formula that a lot of mature nonprofit programs use with their texting is they may start a campaign like Giving Tuesday or year end with an MMS, and then they may send a follow-up SMS or two closer to the deadline. The MMS lets you talk about the campaign, what the problem is, how the donation can solve it, get into a little bit more, have an image or video, and then the SMS are quick reminders to let people know that it's almost time, the deadline is almost there, or they've almost run out of time to give before their gift will be matched. So those are some of the differences. Trish, I know you all use largely MMS, but have also incorporated some SMS a little bit in there as well. So any comments on your thought with the approach of using MMS and SMS?
Yeah, I mean, we incorporate it into every message we send because we know some of the donors in our file aren't going to have the ability to receive the MMS. So we try to make sure that we always have both available, but our primary driver is the MMS because we really want to show those really good photos. We'd love to share the videos that we have. So having that available is great, but we also understand that's not available for everyone. So we always try to make sure that we have at least a message that everybody can receive for each and every message that we send. And I did see over here, Mike, a question about whether or not you can forward the text messages to friends so they can also give. And from my perspective, we've always been able to do that. And I think that it's wonderful that people can share, and just like email, people do, they forward it, and it just, that helps broaden your message as well.
Yeah, and there's actually some cool functionality where you can have a link in your text message that you can click, have people click, and it opens up a new text message that has different content pre-written for them. And all they have to do is put in their contacts and family and friends that they want to send it to. So we do see some event organizations doing that from time to time, where they encourage people to invite others to an event, or even encourage others to give, make a donation, or if there's some other type of content that's really interesting. There's really easy ways beyond even just copying and pasting that you can include a link in a text. It'll open up a new text, kind of like the social share with email or donation forms. It opens up a new message. You just add in family and friends and then send it off. All right, so I'm going to stay on. So Kate, you've kind of taken me down this road, and I appreciate that. I'm going to stay on this for one more use case because we're really close to using video in a text. And I see Isabel Malati from World Hope is on the call here today, and I'm going to use their example here that they do a really great job. I'm going to put this into preview mode so we can actually take a look at this. When you use a short code, a 5 or 6 digit number, and this is a little bit different than how some organizations who may use a 10-digit number. 10-digit numbers, you can send maybe a 5 or 6 second video that plays directly within the text, maybe a little bit shorter depending on the quality of the video. But when you use a 5 or 6 digit number instead to send the text, called a short code, you can include up to a 30-second video. And the nice thing about the video is the video plays directly within the text. So you can see from World Hope's example here that they do a really nice job using this. This was around the holidays, but talk about bringing the mission to life, showing the impact to monthly donors of what their support helps to fund. If you're trying to acquire monthly donors, it really helps to visualize. You don't need to have, you don't have to click through the text message to go see the video. It'll play directly within the text message. So it's a really underrated way to get video in front of your donors at key moments to really bring the problem to life, how they can help. And we see organizations using this strategically, especially around big campaigns or the holidays. Great. So with that, I'm going to go back up, update our bingo board here. Hopefully you're keeping track at home. We'll put this up at the end so you can total up how many use cases that you are using text messaging for. We're making our way through. We're maybe almost halfway through here. Trish, where do you want to go next in terms of Holt's text messaging use cases related to monthly giving?
Why don't we go to the monthly giving retention?
Great. Love this one.
So when we initially began chatting with Mike and he reached out to us, letting us know that, you know, he's now working with Tatango and has a text messaging platform. He knew we didn't have one. And one of the things that really sold us on moving to having text messaging as another channel for us was the ability to reach out to our sponsors and let them know that we've tried to process their credit card and they've had a failed payment. So this is a wonderful way for us to get out in front of. We also have your credit card is about to expire, and then your credit card has failed. And so this is just allowing us to reach donors who, again, may not have seen their email, and it gives them a way to contact us to get their credit card updated, which is, our primary goal, to make sure that we keep those monthly donors on file for as long as possible.
Yeah, I love this because we all know one of the top reasons monthly donors stop giving is because of a failed payment. And even if you're using, and Holt does something really smart, they're using a credit card updater. So they wait until the credit card updater is run every month, and then they send this out to anybody who was not caught by the credit card updater to reach out to them to let them know that they need updated payment information. So they're not having to contact folks who have already responded with an updated credit card, or it's been found by the credit card updater. Thanks, Trish. We had a quick question I'll just answer. I saw here in the chat here from Lauren. Lauren, we find that about 99% of people who receive a text message from a nonprofit that is MMS can receive it as MMS. Maybe 1% of the list does not have MMS enabled, so they would get an SMS fallback message instead. Okay, so we have monthly giving retention. Where should we go next, folks? Who has a suggestion about another use case on the board?
Looks like Wendy would love to use this for major donors.
All right, Trish, we will go back to you here. I will pull up how Holt is using texting for major gift donors and how you've dabbled in this a little bit, and talk a little bit about this text here.
Yeah, so many of our major donors are folks that initially sign on as a sponsor, and our major gifts team does prospecting, and this allows them to reach out to them directly. So most of our messages will come from your friends at Holt International, but with our major gift program, we have several gift officers. And so what this allows us to do is have them each have a customizable message where they can say, hey, it's Carol with Holt, and have communications. And because the communication, like if someone replies to the text message, it goes into the Tatango platform. And when you have a bulk send of say 40,000 people, there can be a lot of replies there, but their replies are going to come in directly under their section where their message was built, and it allows them to reach out directly through the platform, or they can go offline, like they can call their donor, they can email their donor directly. So it just allows for really good personal communication as well.
Yeah, I love this example. And I saw we had a quick question from Lauren, single opt-in versus double opt-in. Real quick, Lauren, I've heard, or it sounds like you've heard different things. Most of the nonprofits we work with, I think all of them use a single opt-in. I know that certainly you can use a double opt-in with text, but whether it's on a donation form where they put the compliance language or using a keyword and a short code, it is typically a single opt-in. All right, so let's see. Suggestion, anybody have a suggestion for something on the board? Send text after 6 p.m. Great one. Thanks, Jackie. I will.
And I just wanted to give us a quick time check as we jump into this last example. We've got about 3 minutes left in this amazing conversation.
Okay, yep. I will head there real quick. So text sent after 6 p.m. we found had a 37% higher conversion rate. So in the evenings, and 8 to 9 p.m. was the highest time where the conversion rate was the highest and the opt-out rate was the lowest. So thank you for that. I also just want to do one more here real quick. I know Anne-Marie Liatis is on the call from National Kidney Foundation. They do a great job here with, this is a monthly giving acquisition text. So they piggyback this on top of World Kidney Day. They used a goal. So certainly acquiring monthly donors at key moments like an awareness day here. This was a great example that they used. So this will be in the deck. There's more examples that we didn't get to around awareness days and other ones as well. But I do want to go back down to the end here. So what I'd ask you to do is to total up. I'll put the board back up. How many squares you have, how many points you have. And please send, if you have, you can put them in the chat here. We'll see who has the most points. And if you have a high number, I would encourage you to email msnooze@tatango to claim your prize. And
Mike,
looks like we have some folks. Yes.
Real quick, I saw this question come up a couple of times and just wanted to have your answer on it. Does Tatango work in Canada?
Oh, great question. We only work in the US. So currently we do not work in Canada.
And Mike, one other common question, and Trish, thanks so much for jumping in the comments on this, was where to get phone numbers from folks as a nonprofit professional. I know there's lots of different touch points for, whether it's on web forms or at events. Where are some of the top ways you encourage people to get phone numbers?
Yeah, I would use all of those. And then also for the folks, when you're sending text messages, especially when broadcast text messages, you have to have people who've given you their phone number. You can't go out and rent phone numbers, or you can't do a phone a pen. But if folks have given you their phone number, you can reach out to them about joining your text messaging program. So that's another way that we often see organizations get started with their program.
And you can reach out on social and say, like or follow us, text this, the short code.
Yep.
And
so it looks like we have Alex had 3 of the bingo cards. I'm going to put the phone number or the email address back up here. Some folks had 2, so I would encourage you to email me if you had maybe more than a few of these use cases and you were one of our winners for text messaging bingo, and we will get your contact information and send you a Tatango Yeti in the mail.
Thanks so much, Mike and Trish. This was really fun, and I feel like I learned a ton about texting. So I hope everyone else found this super engaging and valuable. I just dropped in the chat that we have 2 exciting upcoming learning opportunities with Tatango. So please keep an eye out for that. We have a live Q&A session in the Sustainers Slack channel. That if you join that Sustainer Slack channel, you'll have access to that. And a webinar that's coming up on positiveequation.com. So mark your calendars for those events. And, I know everyone is in the email ecosystem from Dana. So please reach out directly if you want to get on the invite list for any of those events. Let's all go ahead and head back to the main stage now. Dana is going to wrap us up with some closing thoughts for the day. So thanks again to Mike and